Hey everybody, we're here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook. He's Jason, I'm Chucky for the Sports Betting Podcast, Bookends powered by STN Sports. You can tell in my voice, I'm excited. It's college football. It might be week 0, but it's still college football. So we're going to dedicate this segment of Bookends to just talking a little college football. We've got a big game in Dublin this week. We've got Nevada that plays. So it's been kind of fun to look at college football this year with the expanded playoff format. We went from 4 teams for a decade to 12 teams now, which really has created some buzz because a lot of teams that wouldn't have made the playoffs before now make the playoffs, or we think will have an opportunity to make the playoffs. And there's some longer shots that we're seeing money bet on. It's not just those top teams, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Ole Misses of the world. We're seeing a lot more of these kind of long shots. Utah 1 is getting a lot of interest right now. There's some liability on Utah, which makes this season kind of an unknown to us, and I think an unknown to you guys a little bit, but a lot more fun with all this optimism for so many teams that are going to make the 12-team format.
Well, and I think the big thing, obviously, we talk about the 12 teams and what that's going to mean to a playoff, and you know, it doesn't matter from a March Madness standpoint. Right. When we expanded from 64 teams to 68 teams, you're still going to have those teams on the bubble that there'll be those arguments that should have been in. But the 12 teams should really give us the coverage in college football to say, hey, these are the top 12 teams. We're going to get a national champion out of these 12 teams. And when you start to go into 13, 14, 15, 16, can those teams really beat the right. Georgias, Alabamas of the world?
But don't you think, I mean, we look at the last couple of years, and you and I have talked about it. We've dedicated bookend segments to it, that the college football bowl season isn't what it once was.
Oh, no, college bowls has been very disappointing.
But now,
and that's because the players don't play because they've got the NFL.
Now with the
if you're in the bowl
format, if you're in that playoff now, correct. You've got 12 teams that are going to make it so much more interesting because these kids want an opportunity. And like March Madness, it's going to be fun if you have a school like a Utah or a team that's outside the top 8 or 10 that starts to really move up toward the end of the season, and they get a chance to play the big boys and they win a game or two. They have an upset there. How much fun is that going to be? Because who knows, maybe we'll see Cinderella wear a glass slipper in college football. Probably not quite as easy because of the size of the guys in the trenches as what we see in college basketball, but I think it's going to be really unique and interesting this year.
To come out of those smaller conferences, you're still going to have an undefeated season to break through. And I think one of the big things with this year's college football season is just the conference realignment.
Right.
The Pac-12 as we know it is no more. Obviously the Big Ten becomes huge. We see Texas and Oklahoma.
So wait, we're going to see Southern Cal and UCLA play like at 9 a.m. now?
It's going to be an interesting season. Yes, we get to see Cal and Stanford transfer to the ACC. You keep mentioning Utah, who now transfers to the Big 12 with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, and they move right to the top of that conference. So it's really interesting to see these conferences where these teams are moving conference and then are kind of on the leaderboard to potentially win that conference. We see in Oregon move to the Big 10 and they leapfrog to the top of the Big 10. So I think that's going to create some really interesting storylines as we go through the season. And I know a lot of our guys are talking about specifically the home road advantage, disadvantage of traveling to these schools for the very first time for Pac-12
and the
teams,
difference in times that you're going to be playing
zones.
now.
Right. But again, when you're Penn State and you go to play Michigan, well, you go to school there for 4, 5, 6 years with the COVID years, you're familiar with going to Michigan 2 or 3 times. Right. You know what it's like. And now you've got these guys that have never walked into Michigan, never walked into Notre Dame, never walked into Ohio State.
Never walked into the Coliseum.
And now
for a USC game.
They're going to try and walk into these right. and find a comfort zone to be able to play football. And so I think that's going to be a very interesting dynamic that we see this season, specifically Texas and Oklahoma. Obviously, right. Texas and Oklahoma, from a Big 12 standpoint, have been at the top of the Big 12, have been in the national championship conversation for the last 10 years. Now they go over to the SEC, and the SEC has been long the conversation that's the best conference in football. To watch Texas and Oklahoma have to go play that week in, week out SEC football instead of playing, maybe some of the Texas Techs, Kansas States that they got to play in the Big 12. So I think these are some really interesting conversations. And yeah, I think you're going to watch bookends over the next month to 3 months, and you're probably going to hear a little bit more about Ole Miss, University of Mississippi, than you did before. My son
Can you tell us why?
My son is now enrolled, so I've become
way to go, Jake,
an adopted Ole Miss fan. So yeah, I will be having my Ole Miss stuff on and cheering for the Rebels.
There's a certain big game you're going to be going to as well.
Which looking forward to make the trip out November 9th, Georgia versus Ole Miss. we'll be down in the Grove and making our way to.
It'd be kind of fun if both teams are undefeated at that point too. And I think when you look at it, it's going to be interesting for us, I think, to really get a gauge and kind of critique. But for you guys, it's going to be fun when you see some of these matchups that occur. I mean, and you think about the playoff format. We know Florida State last year. We know they had the injuries, but they, a lot of people could have made an argument, should they or should they have not been in the playoff format. You think about this year, the teams that are at the top of their conferences, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Penn State, and Alabama. That's only 6 teams. So there's going to be 6 more teams that would make the playoff this year, which I think is going to make it really interesting.
Yeah, and you bring up Florida State, and in my mind that brings up, again, nil money and the transfer portal of the players that we thought we knew at colleges that have now moved on, specifically from a quarterback standpoint. We talk about Florida State. We saw DJ Ukulele, I'm botching his name again, was up in Oregon State after being at Clemson. He now is the starting quarterback at Florida State. So big kind of rotation there, and we'll see what he can do, obviously, in this first game.
Dylan Gabriel moving to Oregon?
Dylan Gabriel, our Heisman Trophy favorite, moves to Oregon. And so there's a lot of shuffling around and things that you need to kind of catch up on, do some quick homework, know your starters. A big one, Quinshon Judkins, who was the running back at Ole Miss, but he's not at Ole Miss anymore. He's gone to Ohio State. He's going to be a big lift for them at Ohio State. So, again, something to check out. Look at those things. But, again, kicking things off, Florida State, Georgia Tech this Saturday, 9 a.m., bright and early, August 24th, we've seen that, in Dublin.
We've seen that number, move a little bit as well. So we have seen some movement on the 2 games, which is kind of interesting. But week 0, 2 big games this weekend.
One of the other things, when you get on the college football on the app, so when you download STN Sports, go click on that college football. Obviously, you're going to have games, you're going to have futures. You click on the futures tab right now, you're going to see to win the NCAA championship. You also have over-under season wins for 40 to 50 teams. You also have the different conferences to win the Big Ten, win the SEC, win the Big 12, and you also have the Heisman Trophy, which we talked about. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel at the top of that list, Jalen Monroe, Carson Beck, but there's some names down at the bottom. You specifically brought up Utah, and again, we see Cameron Rising making his return after not playing all this year. They're at the top of the Big 12. We know the Big 12 likes to put up points. We've seen Heisman Trophy winners come out of the Big 12 before. Utah is going to be a top team. Cameron Rising is going to be that guy that's going to put up points for them. I think
that's
he's
what you look for,
a long shot at
yeah.
that 20-1. And then obviously we know about Shedeur Sanders in Colorado and the hype that he generates there. He's at 25-1. And I'll throw out my Ole Miss just for the heck of it, of Jackson Dart, the young man that I'll be clearing for. Another guy that came out of the transfer portal last year, moving from USC to Ole Miss. And obviously with Lane Kiffin and that Ole Miss offense, they're going to put up a ton of points there.
Well, I think with a lot of the changes and the realignment in college that there isn't that kind of clear-cut favorite. We've seen Dylan Gabriel's odds drop, but this is kind of the longest shot we've seen in a while for the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. But I think, going back to the national championship, it's really more of an art now than a science, because you're going to look at kind of strength of schedule, look at teams' conference play, and try to guess maybe and gauge how the committee's going to be thinking throughout the course of the season to look for not maybe those top 6, but who are the other 6 that are going to get in, and then you have a lot of opportunities to kind of hedge your bets or put yourself in a really good position at that point. So I think it's way different this year for all of us, and there's going to be some value on the board. We'll be adjusting these, of course, every week, but there's going to be value on the board based on how some of these teams play early in the season.
Yeah, and those top 4 teams, they'll get a bye when we go into the college football playoffs. So we'll see 1, 2, 3, 4 with a bye, and then 5 through 12, those 8 teams will play in a home game for the top-seeded team, and then they'll go to neutral sites after that against the top 4. So, again, something to be really excited about. In particular, like you said, getting away from a little bit of the bowl format and more into this college football playoff format, I think is going to be absolutely fantastic for us as we get into December and January. But right now, as we're in this late August, early September, there's some monster key games on the board, big wins that come out of the box. And, again, you're not devastated by maybe an early season loss, as you can bounce back.
Because 12 teams
get in. So, I think it's going to be a very, very exciting, dynamic college football season, like we said, because of the conference alignment and because of this 12-team playoff.
Let's talk now a little bit more about the Heisman. I know we touched on it, and with Dylan Gabriel, the favorite, you've got Carson Beck, the quarterback from Georgia, Quinn Ewers from Texas. We've seen some movement on the Heisman odds, and actually, some tickets written. I mean, Heisman liability is on running back Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State, which is kind of a little bit of a value pick. Cameron Ward from Miami, Miller Moss, who's now been named the quarterback at Southern Cal, and then Avery Johnson, the quarterback from Kansas State. Most tickets are on Dylan Gabriel, but his odds are so low that it isn't creating liability. The other guys that I mentioned, there is some liability on, and I think because you're looking at value and kind of like you're gauging what teams will make the playoffs, you're gauging some of these quarterbacks in the offense that they're going to be able to make a move, and you're just getting such a great price right now because there's so much unknown in college football.
Yeah, and one thing you'll notice, you're going to get a great price on any running backs, wide receivers, non-quarterback position players. In the stats that are being put up in the college football format right now, the hype that's going to be put in these teams, very, very difficult for a non-quarterback to essentially win the Heisman. You're going to have to put up really, really exceptional numbers comparative to
because
what
the
these
receiver is
quarterbacks,
going to get that from the quarterback.
From what these quarterbacks are going to put up. So, again, that's why you see those quarterbacks ranked so high. But injuries are going to play a key role in this, and as much as you talk about the stats, you still have to be on a team that's going to probably be in the playoffs, be in one of those top teams. So that's why you see those quarterbacks
really
there.
Generate some offense. Before we go on to a few other college football topics, I just want to touch on our last man standing college football contest, Jay. I mean, we've talked about college football. There's so much buzz this year with the increased playoff format and the conference realignment, and that last man standing, we guarantee $100,000 in college football. I'm not sure there's another college football contest out there. Maybe there is, but this one is the one that's getting all the buzz. It's our signature college contest. $25 entry fee gets you one entry. For $100, you get four plus a bonus fifth entry. It really is a great college football contest, and I think this year more than ever it's going to be so wide open with everything. Come on in, get signed up for this. It's a fun contest. For $25 you can get paid $100,000.
Yeah, and that college football contest, we've given you a little bit more of a window. We don't start that until it mirrors the NFL season, so we actually go into college football week 2 to start that contest. So you've still got some time. September 7th.
You're okay with Labor Day, going through Labor Day. It's the following week.
We encourage you to get in now, sign up, take advantage of it. No lines, no waiting. Get signed up. Get yourself ready for both the college contest. You talked about $100,000 guaranteed in our college, and we've got $150,000 guaranteed in our pro contest. Two really great contests, really inexpensive to get in. For $100, you're getting 5 entries. Pick a winner, you advance, make it on to week 2. Exciting stuff to go through. And from a college standpoint, we're really listing more games. I think over the past kind of 4 or 5 years, we would put 20 to 25 games on the college football last man standing sheet for you to choose from, and Chucky's really done a good job of expanding that. We're now in the kind of 35 to 40 games for you to choose some. So some of even these smaller market games are making their ways onto the last man standing contest.
Yeah, again, with all the hype and kind of buzz surrounding college football, get signed up for college last man standing. It's going to be fun this year.
And college, obviously, as we talk about college being on Saturdays and the bulk of the game, college football on Saturdays, we still have those games that are going on kind of midweek. As we get to October, we'll see the MAC conference take over the football universe. We're playing their Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday games. But just wanted to mention the hours of operation. Again, Saturday mornings, we're open at 6 o'clock in the morning, open all the way till midnight. The app itself,
Saturday and Sunday.
The app itself is actually open from 6 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning the following day or that morning. So plenty of time to get down, and our kiosks are open from 6 to 2 each day. So lots of opportunities to get down, put the money in on your app, make your bets on the app, and be wide open for all these crazy times for college football games early in the morning, or for those of you that need to be late night up for those Hawaii games.
Yeah, we're excited about college football starting this year, guys. A couple other kind of topics maybe to touch on. Let's talk about UNLV a little bit. You look at UNLV, their over-under win total this year's 7.5. They had a great season last year. Unfortunately, it didn't end as well in conference play and then their bowl game, but a lot of hype and a lot of buzz about UNLV this year, which is going to be fun. I mean, last year they were point spread darlings. You guys cashed almost on a weekly basis. I think going into their conference championship game, they were number 1 in against the spread record that you guys cashed on quite frequently.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull it up real quick. Obviously, Boise State
and Fresno
considered the class of the Mountain West. Boise State's actually a minus money favorite, and the number 2 team listed on the top is the UNLV Running Rebels, and that's not something that we've seen for probably a decade to see them this high up. But they're the number 2 favorite to win the Mountain West, followed by, you said it, Fresno State, and then the Air Force Academy. So expecting big things out of UNLV this year and continued growth of the program. But they should make their mark and definitely put themselves in position for a bowl game and obviously a conference championship. If they can run a table, could be an interesting conversation
Really interesting.
Interesting conversation coming out of the Mountain West if somebody's able to run the table in the Mountain West to get themselves to be one of those 12 teams.
I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but there's a game here in a couple of weeks with LSU playing Southern Cal, which already is a sellout at Allegiant Stadium, which is going to be a huge game. And again, you look at these two teams that have never played during the regular season now kind of kick it off. I think it's going to be fun.
No, and I said even the Florida State Georgia Tech matchup that's coming up. We've got some extra board games that you're going to add in there. Hawaii, I know, is a 38.5 point favorite this week over Delaware State, who were troubled to get on their flight.
Right.
They missed their flight out of New York. So already some interesting things to go in and handicap there. But again, check that college football schedule out. We're excited to be offered to you. And again, look for those props to continue to expand on both the pro and college football menu as you get in there on each game each week.
One of the other questions that was kind of sent in that we wanted to address is it's kind of unusual to go to a college football season without Jim Harbaugh at Michigan and without Nick Saban at Alabama. What's the buzz been on those two teams? You're still seeing a lot of action on Alabama. Totally different kind of atmosphere and environment from the bettors on Michigan right now.
Yeah, I think obviously Michigan winning the national championship and the loss of J.J. McCarthy, the loss of Blake Corum. The question is, who's next up there? Alabama's a much different story. It was funny seeing a story yesterday about cleaning out Saban's office that it looked like walking into his grandpa's office, and so it was a complete change. But there's some excitement there in Alabama. Obviously, they still have Milroe, and Alabama isn't a team that re-recruits. They just reload. It's just next man up, and so obviously in the SEC, Georgia, Carson Beck, and what they've got there, Alabama's kind of slipped down below Georgia in that SEC. But make no mistake, he wants to come in.
It's not going to surprise me if they're right there.
Not be a replacement for Nick Saban. He wants to leave his own mark.
Talking about all this stuff too, guys, this is such a great time to get signed up for STN Sports. We still have that $250, up to $250 no-worry wager. I mean, if you're thinking about now, football season is here. It's week 0. We know what Labor Day weekend brings, and then the start of pro football with those big games on Thursday and Friday leading into that Sunday, Monday. If you're thinking about getting signed up for a mobile app, get signed up for STN Sports. Now's the time, up to $250. You put $250 in, you bet and you lose, we're giving you $250 back. Yeah. It's phenomenal.
If you're asking what is a $250 no-worry wager, that's the key. Is you're crazy not to take advantage of this opportunity that Station Casinos and STN Sports is giving you if you're going to play football season at all this season. Put $250 in, up to $250. If you make a $100 wager for no worry wager, that's fine as well. But up to $250, you're going to put that money in.
Why would you make $100?
Select the game that you want. Select the no worry wager. When you win, you get paid. If you lose, you get the $250 right back into your account. So again, no risk, no worry wager. That's why it's called that. Take advantage of it. Sign up today.
It is great. As you can tell, we are very excited about it because we're not wearing STN polos today. We're a little bit dressed up for college football season.
Well,
we're ready to kick it off.
We're sitting here in late August and really getting the excitement of college football season and come off kind of the Olympics and everything that's going on. But the pro football is going to be fantastic, and I'm still really entrenched in this baseball season. Every single day, these wild card matchups are getting interesting. We saw all the trade deadline go on. We saw the pitching. We've got some really bad teams in Major League Baseball that our fans are picking on, and then we've got some really good teams that are battling for this wild card, in particular in the West. As much as, we've talked about the Dodgers, but the Padres and Diamondbacks are playing absolutely fantastic baseball, coming after and trying to chase this Dodger team who seems to be getting a little bit of their pitching back. And then all of these divisions all around baseball, there's interesting storylines. So don't forget about the baseball. It's going to be a good run down the stretch here, August, September, October, before we start to hit playoff baseball. But money to be made in baseball.
I was hoping you weren't going to bring that up. Bet on football. But you think about baseball and the Marlins, the Rockies, the Angels, the A's, all teams that you guys have really bet against. But the White Sox, in their last 33 games, 3-30, and they've been outscored by 101 runs during that time. So there's, as Jay said, unfortunately for us, money to be made for you guys with baseball right now. We know football's here, but there's a lot of value against some of these teams in baseball.
One last thing we wanted to mention, as we go into kind of football season this year, we've got a lot of the crazy streaming server games that we're potentially going to get, where you get games on Amazon Prime and Peacock and these other things. So if you don't have those streaming services in your home, please come down to Station Casinos. We're going to have these games on. We've got the streaming servers.
All of our books, not just here at Red Rock.
We're going to be able to show
books.
these games. So don't feel obligated to have to buy that stuff at home if you don't already have it. We're happy to host you. Come up to the bar, grab something. We'll have those games on our big screens and all the sports books here at STN Sports.
And again, please don't forget, get signed up for the college football and pro football last man standing. But this week 0, and even the Labor Day games in college football, you still have time. And don't forget, get signed up for STN Sports. That up to that $250 no-worry wager is just a great way to get kicked off, no pun intended, for football season. So we're excited, guys. We look forward to chatting with you next week. We still have some fantasy football tidbits we're going to get into the next couple of weeks as we lead up to the start of pro football. But for Jason, I'm Chucky, the Sports Betting Podcast, bookends powered by STN Sports. We'll see you guys next week.